In just 5 minutes, one encrypted document ended Germany's energy leadership forever. I've covered 23 summits. I've witnessed diplomatic meltdowns, energy crises, alliance fractures, but what happened at 3:14 p.m. on September 8th at Berlin wasn't just diplomatic confrontation, it was systematic destruction of Olaf Scholz by a woman who had spent months building an unbreakable corruption case. Kemi Badenoch walked into the Chancellery conference room carrying a titanium briefcase. She looked like a prosecutor who had gathered enough evidence to bring down a criminal enterprise. What none of us knew was that briefcase contained classified intelligence exposing the largest energy corruption scandal in European history. But she didn't open it immediately. The silence that preceded destruction was unlike anything I'd experienced. The room went completely quiet, not respectful diplomatic silence, but deadly quiet that comes when everyone senses political execution. At 3:13 p.m., Scholz's energy advisor received an urgent, encrypted message. I watched his face go ashen as he whispered something desperate in German to the Chancellor. Scholz's composure visibly cracked. His Russian liaison was scrolling frantically through classified communications, looking like someone who knew Germany's energy strategy was about to implode. And then Badenoch unlocked her briefcase. "Chancellor Scholz," she began, her voice carrying authority that commanded absolute attention. "I want to discuss Germany's energy security partnerships and some troubling financial arrangements that have come to light." Standard diplomatic opening. Nothing threatening yet. Scholz looked relieved, confident. His team were preparing usual talking points about European energy cooperation, but Badenoch's briefcase was positioned with precision, open to a tab marked with NATO classification. This wasn't improvised diplomacy. This was orchestrated destruction. "Madam Prime Minister," Scholz replied in methodical English, falling back on standard energy policy deflections, "Germany remains fully committed to energy security cooperation within established European frameworks." Classic bureaucratic non-answer. But Badenoch wasn't interested in energy policy discussions. I could see her building towards something devastating, like a prosecutor with the smoking gun. "Chancellor Scholz," she said, removing a document with calculated precision, "are you familiar with Northern Energy Holdings GmbH, incorporated in Hamburg on January 18th? The question hit the room like diplomatic dynamite. Scholz's expression didn't change immediately, but I watched his hands. They went completely rigid. When politicians' hands stop moving during high-stakes negotiations, it means their nervous system is in full panic mode. "Madam Prime Minister," Scholz replied, his voice maintaining diplomatic composure, but lacking his usual confidence. "Germany works with numerous energy companies as part of our comprehensive approach to energy security and market diversification." Wrong answer. Catastrophically wrong. When asked about a specific Hamburg shell company, generic answers about energy diversification suggest massive cover-up. Badenoch pulled out a second document with German federal intelligence and NATO classification markings. "Chancellor Scholz," she continued, her voice gaining prosecutorial momentum, "according to these intelligence documents obtained through Five Eyes cooperation, Northern Energy Holdings GmbH received 15 billion in German government energy security funds. Between 2019, a shockwave rippled through the international observers. 15 billion wasn't just significant. It was more than most European countries' entire annual energy budgets. But Badenoch was just beginning her systematic destruction. "And Chancellor," she said, producing a third document with Russian Federation watermarks, "these same intelligence files show that Northern Energy Holdings GmbH is 87% owned by Gazprom Financial Services, a subsidiary of Russia's state energy monopoly." The room went silent. Not diplomatic courtesy. This was international energy officials processing information that could reshape European energy policy and trigger criminal investigations. Scholz's energy advisor leaned forward, his diplomatic training inadequate for accusations of this magnitude. His Russian liaison stopped checking her tablet, staring at Badenoch with disaster-level shock. But what happened next changed everything. Scholz shot forward in his seat, his legendary German composure completely evaporating. Madam Prime Minister, these allegations represent a serious misunderstanding of legitimate energy security arrangements. Chancellor Scholz, Badenoch interrupted, her voice cutting through his protest like a diplomatic blade. Are you denying that you personally attended a private meeting in St. Petersburg on March 22, 2022, where this $15 billion arrangement was finalized? Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. For exactly 13 seconds, I counted. Scholz said nothing. 13 seconds might not sound significant, but in high-stakes energy diplomacy, 13 seconds of silence is equivalent to a full confession. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed completely. The confident German Chancellor was gone, replaced by something I'd never heard before: panic with a Bavarian accent. I attend many diplomatic meetings as part of Germany's energy security obligations. I cannot recall every specific discussion or commercial arrangement mentioned. Devastating response. When a chancellor says, I cannot recall about $15 billion in energy funds that benefited Russian state companies, it doesn't sound like innocence. It sounds like systematic energy treason. Badenoch opened her briefcase one final time and removed what would become the smoking gun that ended Scholz's energy leadership forever. Chancellor, she said, her voice now carrying the absolute authority of someone who held complete power over her opponent's political survival. Perhaps this will help refresh your memory. She placed a high-resolution surveillance photograph on the conference table, positioning it so every diplomatic camera could capture the devastating evidence. The image showed Scholz shaking hands with Igor Sekhin, CEO of Rosneft, in what was clearly an intimate meeting setting with Russian energy executives, visible in the background. This photograph was taken by German Federal Intelligence at the Astoria Hotel in St. Petersburg on March 22, 2022. The same day that $3.7 billion in German energy security funds were transferred to Northern Energy Holdings accounts controlled by Gazprom. The timing was devastating. Same day, same location, same players. This wasn't energy diplomacy. This was documented collaboration with Russian energy monopolies. While Germany claimed to support European independence, I watched Scholz's face drain of color. His hands were now visibly shaking. Not diplomatic nervousness, actual trembling visible to everyone. In the monitoring room, his energy team was typing frantically on secure communications, sending emergency damage control instructions to every German energy agency and European institution. But Badenoch wasn't finished destroying him. Chancellor, she continued, producing another document marked with European Commission seals. I also have here internal German Energy Ministry communications showing you personally overruled your own energy security advisors, who warned that Northern Energy Holdings was a Russian front company. At 3:19 p.m., exactly 5 minutes after she'd begun speaking, Olaf Scholz experienced complete political breakdown. His voice was barely audible through diplomatic translation. Madam Prime Minister, these documents lack proper context. Germany's energy security requires complex arrangements. He stopped mid-sentence. 19 seconds of silence. I've never seen a head of government unable to complete a sentence during energy negotiations. The silence was broken by Badenoch's calm, measured response. Chancellor, I'm not questioning Germany's energy security needs. I'm questioning $15 billion in German taxpayer funds that were secretly transferred to Russian state energy companies, while German citizens faced energy poverty. The accusation hung in the room like diplomatic poison. This wasn't just about energy policy anymore. This was about systematic betrayal of European energy independence by one of its most powerful leaders, who had secretly enriched Russian energy monopolies while his own people suffered. Scholz's diplomatic advisor was now whispering urgently in German, but even he seemed to recognize that standard damage control was inadequate for treason allegations of this magnitude. Furthermore, Badenoch continued, opening her final folder, German intelligence has confirmed that these secret Russian energy payments continued throughout 2023 and 2024, even after Germany publicly committed to ending energy dependence on Russian sources. The expansion from wartime collaboration to ongoing treason demonstrated that this wasn't isolated corruption. This was systematic energy betrayal that continued even after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. At 3:20 p.m., Scholz made the decision that effectively ended Germany's energy leadership in Europe. We will need to review these allegations with our energy security teams and provide appropriate responses through established diplomatic channels. Wrong answer, fatally wrong. When you're accused of secretly funding Russian energy companies with $15 billion in taxpayer money, you don't promise to review allegations, you categorically deny the accusations or admit guilt. Promising diplomatic review sounds like you're buying time to destroy evidence. The conference room erupted in the diplomatic equivalent of chaos. NATO energy officials were frantically taking notes. French President Macron's energy advisor was reportedly calling Paris with urgent updates. Italian energy minister's delegation was already discussing emergency EU Energy Council sessions. In the international press room, energy correspondents were typing so fast their keyboards sounded like industrial machinery. The Financial Times Berlin correspondent was speaking urgently into her microphone. This could end Germany's energy leadership in Europe. We're watching the collapse of German energy policy in real time. As the meeting concluded, I overheard urgent conversations in multiple languages confirming everyone's thoughts. Es ist vorbei. C'est fini. It's finished. The 15 billion Russian gas scandal that Badenoch had just exposed wasn't just about energy policy or diplomatic arrangements. It was about a European leader who had systematically betrayed European energy independence to enrich Russian state monopolies, while his own citizens faced energy crisis. By 4:45 p.m., Scholz energy scandal was trending in 12 languages. By 5:30 p.m., the European Commission announced emergency investigations. By 6:00 p.m., 4 EU states demanded emergency energy council meetings. Every major European energy publication ran wall-to-wall Energygate coverage, connecting Germany's Chancellor to systematic funding of Russian energy monopolies during crisis. And it all started with one titanium briefcase, carried by a woman who had spent months building an unbreakable case against Europe's most trusted energy leader. What I witnessed that afternoon wasn't just energy diplomacy, it was the precise moment when classified evidence obliterated energy alliance, when documented betrayal defeated diplomatic denial, and when one leader's meticulous investigations systematically destroyed another leader's entire energy legacy. The Berlin Energy Security Summit continued for one more day. But everyone knew the real outcome had already been determined. Germany's influence in European energy policy was finished. Scholz's credibility on energy independence was destroyed. The European energy landscape had shifted permanently toward British leadership. Sometimes energy justice takes years through international tribunals. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes in a Berlin conference room. On September 8th, I watched Kemi Badenoch prove that in international energy relations, classified evidence always defeats diplomatic immunity. The only question was how much damage Germany's energy betrayal would do to European unity before the truth finished destroying Scholz's career. If this exposure of energy corruption restored your faith in international accountability, don't just watch, like, share, and subscribe to our channel where energy scandals get exposed and diplomatic lies get prosecuted. No matter which flag they hide behind, hit the bell. The next energy betrayal might involve your nation's resources. What would you do if you discovered your ally had been secretly funding enemy energy companies during a crisis? Drop a comment below. This analysis is based on diplomatic intelligence and international energy documentation. All dialogue and specific details are dramatized for educational and commentary purposes.